the past day, I noticed a slight mechanical clank when driving and I couldn't really isolate it. I then remembered that I had similar on the canning and that actually two of my bull bar bolts sheared off on the canning. So I checked that two bolts and they were both loose. So I tightened them again and the rattle disappeared. We fortunately managed to leave a little bit earlier today and continued on our way towards Geosurvey Hill. Geosurvey Hill is a rare rocky outcrop surrounded by sand and first discovered by Rex Briggs while making the first south-north motorized crossing of the Simpson Desert in September 1964. Rex and his family climbed to the top of the hill and erected a stone cairn, and that is still there today. The hill was named after his company name Geosurvey. Going cross-country in the Simpson Desert, I compare to an ocean crossing. For me, the Simpson is a land-based ocean. When you're in the middle of it, there is no tracks. You have these waves of sand dunes, and you really feel you are away from absolutely everything, and life only reduces to the things you need to survive the next hour. These interdunal swales can be pretty deceiving, and here I'm getting hung up on one of the Spinifex mounts. However, nothing what a little shuffle around couldn't solve. Dennis Bartel gave me a good tip how to identify the best crossing for the dunes. He always did that from the crest of the dune he was currently on, looking forward and then identifying a gap or the easiest way to cross the next dune, and that really works quite well. 300,000 kilometer anniversary of the cruiser in the Simpson Desert, a few kilometers from Geosurvey Hill. We ended up splitting into two groups, finding ways over the dunes. The other group headed back north to find a way over that dune and just making their way back now. It is quite remarkable to find a high rocky outcrop surrounded by hundreds of kilometers of sand. It is quite evident why this would have been a landmark among the indigenous community, but also then later on under the surveyors. The question now was how to get back to civilization, because Chris and Alex needed to be in Alice in 3 days and Sebastian also needed to get home, and we were also running low on fuel. I suggested to take the route I did 3 years ago because that was the most recent anyone in our group had traveled that route. According to the map and my previous experience, that would have been the shortest and quickest route with the least fuel consumption. And it would have brought us past the geographical center of the Simpson Desert, which no one beside Bill, Barb and myself had seen. Bill decided to take a route he last drove a decade ago, which was a little longer, required more dune crossings, and unfortunately meant we missed the geocenter by a few kilometers. While the term geographical center needs to be used loosely as the outlines are not clearly defined, there however is a sculpture which was erected by the CFA for Wheel Drive Club in 1993. And I definitely reckon it is worthwhile to look at it when you're in the area, and I would have loved to show it to my kids. Whatever they changed on that sand flag, because the old one didn't do that, it's getting loose constantly. It's not a bit annoying. By this time I unfortunately stripped the fastening nut and I really couldn't tighten it as much as I wanted anymore. Now we cross the dunes west-east, which is the easier way if you go cross-country, because you have a more gradual ascent and a steeper descent. I think the past 2 days the boys had an average speed of around 7 to 11 kilometers per hour, and finally we managed to pick up that speed a little bit and went up to 20-25 kilometers per hour. It can become a bit tiresome if you have so different setup cars as, for example, with my suspension or also Sebastian and Chris and Alex in the Defender. We could drive significantly faster, and for me actually it is quite painful to drive super slow because with a little bit more speed and my suspension the terrain actually becomes easier, the car rocks less and it's a more comfortable drive for me. Anyway, after another long day, Bill and Barb found us a beautiful camp spot right next to an old airstrip. It looked like there was a chance of rain, so I wanted to be safe and put my Super Pack awning up just to be sure. Another glorious morning. The Remote Simpson Desert. Sun is just about to rise. Yeah, that was another cold night here in the Simpson. Again, minus degrees. But I'm not too happy with that expat down mattress, I have to say. It's only the second trip I used it and it's losing air already. I pump it up fully in the evening. In the morning it only has half the air in it. And that becomes a bit fresh and borderline uncomfortable. That was fully pumped up yesterday. And now, look at that. That's it. That's ridiculous actually. That's nearly empty. Plug is all in. Morning, Ian.
There you go.
Good. How cold was it?
It was -4.5 at 4 o'clock, at 5 o'clock.
-4.5, shit.
I think it might be colder now. -5.5.
Yeah, it feels a bit fresh.
It's fine when I was healthy. It's hard to take when you're struggling.
When was it on this trip?
Yeah, it wasn't cold as such. It was more a question of being slightly uncomfortable. So I curled him up a bit.
It was a 7.1.
Might have
minus.
coincided with that night, but the other nights, like tonight, which was -5 was fine. I could sleep straight.
You're
Legs
pretty
out.
sensitive to within a degree or two.
Well, eventually everybody has their points, Bill, which they sort of curl up a bit.
Yeah, well.
But how's the night? You were warm?
Cold.
You were cold, -5?
My brother's in the middle of his sleeping bag.
Oi. Yeah, the biggest issue I really have with Explore Oz Traveler, it's still the track logging. It is just super annoying that you can't share a track. So with a convoy of 6 cars, I have one track on Explore Oz here. Some Tyre tracks here in the Remote Simpson Desert, but I cannot share them with anyone. I cannot export them because I can't give them pretty much to the vehicle which does the lead today. Any other application really I could share them via airdrop, but yeah, I just can't do with Explore Oz.
Oh no, we need to know how far it is to Birdsville from here.
I can tell you exactly.
Oh, go on then, tell me.
No, we're not arguing. I think everybody knows the French line is the French line, as in
French line.
So, turns out, probably not enough fuel.
No, we don't know. 170, Stefan. What you've done? This is you've used 170 litres of fuel.
I don't know how much I exactly
No,
used.
but just based on those figures.
I wasn't quite sure why I seem to use more fuel than usual on these trips, and I put it down to the long idle times as well as a very, very slow pace we had over the whole cross-country section. From the geographical center to the French line is a pretty well-defined trek, which can be driven at a reasonable speed. However, Bill still wanted the D1 to drive at a fairly slow speed, so Sebastian and myself decided to go a little bit ahead, still within UHF distance, drive at a more reasonable speed, and then from time to time stop for a break and wait for the rest to catch up. Look at this. That is as tight as I can tie it. We are waiting to see a camel. No luck so far, but here it is. It's in parts though. Sebastian was very keen seeing a camel. He was a little bit behind me and I told him over UHF that I had found a camel and told him to hurry up to see it.
It's a dead camel.
Any camels yet? So where's the camel?
Dead one.
No, not the dead one. Oh, Stefan, you're such a wally. Oh my God, what a...
Sebastian is ready. He has the camera out, full of excitement. Leave it. I especially set the head up for you.
No, but it's...
What a shame.
It is a camel. Oh, it was one.
No, we want to see a live one running around in the wild.
On this trek are a few dune crossings, and they usually start with a sharp right hook and with very soft sand, so you need a little bit momentum to get up there. The cricket. Our camp for the night. Made pretty good day driving today, over 70 k's, probably best day since we off-road really, which is good. According to my fuel calculation, I should make it to Birdsville with around 30 to 40 liters still in the tank. However, I was planning to make a beeline to Birdsville as soon as we hit the French line, because I wanted to avoid all the big bash traffic. So just to be sure, I put my 10 liters from the roof in and pinch 20 liters from Ian. So given that my expat mattress, the down mattress, lost air last night and was nearly flat, I now put underneath my Drifter windscreen protector, because that has a bit insulation in, and as well as emergency blanket, and I hope that will see me through the night. Nah, I'm cooking, but I thought I filmed the
Look, I'm trying to learn
the playing the gaming club here.
If you got tofu and Brussels sprouts, I'll be there.
Look good,
They're idling gently.
Puts under pressure.
Helping us all.
I've in fact packed a lot of my stuff already, just in case. I was scared that you guys would be doing that.
We'll be packed by 7. We'll be packed by 7.
Are you sure?
7 a.m.
I have that on camera. I have that on camera.
So let's be clear, 7
I have that on
I think
camera.
you're giving too high
Separate at 7
expectations,
a.m. We'll
Will.
be at there.
7 a.m. Rest assured, the boys were not packed by 7 a.m. the next morning, I can tell you that. Shortly after leaving the next morning, we found the first group of camels for this trip. After we watched the camels and were about ready to move, Sebastian noticed that he had a flat tire. Bill checked with a spray bottle that there was no obvious leaks and pumped back air into the tire. And given we had only driven on tracks and there were really no sticks, I assumed Sebastian just had a tire fart and suggested to air back up, drive for another 10-15 minutes and then check again. However, Sebastian never heard of a tire fart and he insisted of changing his perfectly fine tire, which took a little while. A tire fart is when for whatever reason the sidewall is pushed in and air escapes out of the tire. These can happen when you scrape against rocks, but in rare cases can also happen if you hit one of that potholes the wrong way. Sebastian, it doesn't look like it has gone any down though, huh?
No, it doesn't actually.
I'd drive it and see what happens.
No, don't stick it back on.
No, leave it in. We're not putting that one back on, putting a new one back on.
Once we hit the French line and are back on a well-traveled route, Chris and Alex heading west towards Alice Springs, and I plan to make my own way back to Birdsville as fast as possible, as the next day was the last day of the Big Bash and I really wanted to get early into Birdsville, fill up and then get as far away as possible from it because there was no accommodation and I didn't want to be stuck in the aftermath of thousands of cars with caravans leaving Birdsville. We arrived at the intersection between the French line and the trek to the geographical center. Here is where we would say goodbye to Chris and Alex, which would head west now.
Bye.
Been great travellers to travel with, I've got to say.
Sorry about the drama from me, but it's my nemesis. Pleasure meeting you. Thanks a lot. It was a great trip. We survived it.
You're in Victoria, let us know.
Yeah. Bye.
All right.
See ya.
See you later.
Bye. We're on the French line here, and I can't believe it. I'm pleasantly surprised. It's actually in pretty good condition so far. Contrary to the popular belief, a lot of the dunes on the French line are actually better driven with a bit speed, especially the ones with the deep horizontal corrugation holes, which are reasonably narrow spaced. This will actually make for a more even ride with less flex and less stress on the vehicle. Of course, I would not recommend this if your four-wheel drive is already heavily overloaded or sitting on its bump stops, but I have seen this work many times even with adequate normal suspension in the desert. It takes a little bit of practice to read the dunes right, because there are a few dunes where the corrugation is too far spaced apart and then a slower approach is better suited. Let me give you an example for these here. These corrugation are spaced too far apart and then really you can't go too fast and you have to slow down, otherwise you hit the bump stops. But for the majority of dunes, the faster approach works much better. Obviously, the better your suspension setup, the more you can get away with, and that's why nowadays I would have nothing else but high-end suspension, and to be honest, it took me longer than I thought to realize what a difference it makes.
I'm right now in Northern Territory, Queensland and South Australia. What I'm gonna do, sand from Queensland, put it in Northern Territory sand, and put it in South Australia. Boom! Magic.
So we just said goodbye to everyone. It's 5 o'clock or 5:30, actually that is Sydney time. And we're heading on a bit further. We're camping here now, but I want to be a bit closer to Birdsville. 7 o'clock in the morning in Birdsville, filling up and then heading home. So we're pushing on a little bit longer and then just have a quick camp. And yeah, we'll see what the day brings. It looks like rain. There's some pretty dark clouds here.
Yeah.
So dinner for me, quick one, campers pantry. The first one, the spaghetti bolognese, I liked. It's a good mix up with the radix and the cooked food. And the kids do have a radix, the plant-based Indian-style chickpea curry each. So it should be a good dinner.
It's all inside your head. Eleanor Roosevelt said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So let your light shine.
There, creek, pretty green here, but no water in the creek, which is alright with me. That means no detour. Toilet paper everywhere. The big red bash seemed to be still in full swing, so we stopped and went up the dune to have a look how that actually looks, because I've never been in the desert with the big red bash going. So, I had a quick look here at the big red bash. I'm sure it's a good thing for the economy, but personally I'd prefer it more quiet and nice. It is toilet paper everywhere, people everywhere.
Driving up Little Red.
Yeah, I'm just here at Little Red. Came out of the desert after I think 9 days or so in the desert. BFG KM3 still on my car, not a single issue. We did a lot of cross-country stuff. A lot of times I was lead vehicle or formed my own track. A lot of sticks, bushes. I run 14 psi, a little bit higher than usual, but the dunes and everything was reasonably easy. So yeah, no issue whatsoever. You will see in the video, obviously, everything what happened on that trip. But I can't really fault the BFG. They brought me here, they got me through the desert, and I'm pretty sure they will bring me back to Sydney now. Keep in mind, I'm a BFG ambassador. That means that they provide me a set of tires per year. However, as always, I show you how it is. If the tires have an issue, if I have punctures, if I have failures, I will show you that as much as I'm showing you now. That I think in the 3rd year now with BFG, I pretty much only had on one trip punctures, and that was again an extreme cross-country trip where we had over 15 punctures. On this trip now we had, I think, 2-3 punctures or so, but none of the BFGs really. So yeah, can't fault them, work well, and trust me, if the tires wouldn't do the job for me, I wouldn't have them on the car. I mean, very simple, just it wouldn't make any sense for where I go, have tires on the car I don't trust. Pretty simple, really. See how much we use. Just out of Birdsville, that's a Birk and Wills tree. I actually never stopped here. I've been here so often.
How do you blaze something?
Or with an axe or with a knife, you cut that off here. And then there would have been something in there, probably usually B and W or something like that. Off we were making our way to Windora. However, on the way there I saw the Betoota turn off, and I have been there last in 2015 when it was all in ruins, so I was keen to see how it had changed. So this is how it looks in 2021, and now I'll show you how it looked in 2015. As you can see here, the new owners have done a wonderful job to bring the hotel back to life. Here are a few more pictures from the inside, which I took in 2015. Surprisingly, a few hours later, the rest of the group, minus Sebastian, all pulled into Betoota to also stay there for the night. It turned out that shortly after I left the guys on the French line, the boys in the Discovery broke one of their rear springs. However, nothing what a few hose clamps could not temporarily fix.
You've only got to
Thanks a lot for watching, guys. This is the end of this trip, and I would like to thank all participants. I would like to thank Bill and Barb for inviting me on the trip, and in particular I would like to thank my daughter Summer, who did a lot of the filming, and without her it would have been much more difficult, and my son Kalen, who did a lot of the drone shots. So thank you very much. In the next episode we will explore Elroy Station, so keep tuned and make sure you like and subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, get entertainment or value from it, please consider that I spend a lot of time and money creating these videos, and I need your help to continue doing so. Yes, I do receive some advert revenue and also the occasional product to review. However, that does not even cover the cost for the fuel of one trip. So if you enjoy my videos, please like, share and subscribe. And if you can, please consider becoming one of my Patreon supporters. And with the equivalent of a cup of coffee or two per month, you can support me in creating these videos. As a Patreon supporter, you also have a few benefits, like early access to my videos, you can ask me a direct question via the Patreon platform, and you have a good chance of winning some of the products I test and give away to my Patreon supporters. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you along the tracks.